Being needed isn't the same as being loved. Unfortunately, some of us learned that too late. Because when you're the strong one, the reliable one, the fixer, people always have a reason to call. They need advice, they need support, they need money, they need a ride, they need a place to fall apart. And after years of being that person, you start believing something very dangerous. You start believing that being needed means you matter, plain and simple. But what happens when the emergencies stop? What happens when the phone, it gets quiet? What happens when nobody needs anything from you? Oh wait, that's when a lot of strong people discover something they never saw coming. They built their whole identity around being useful, not around being themselves. I'm Shatica Miles, also known as Myss T, and this is CCTV. And today, we're getting into the bill that a lot of strong people don't realize they've been paying for. Here's a quick receipt before we go any further. If this conversation feels like super personal, that's because I've spent years watching this pattern show up in people's lives, including my own. It's actually why I wrote a new book, The Loyalty Tax. Why being the strong one is costing you everything. It released yesterday, and it's available now on Amazon.com. Link is in the description. Now let's get back to the work. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable rest feels when your identity is tied to being productive? I mean, you finally get that free day. You finally get just a tad bit of peace. You finally get a break. But instead of enjoying it, you start looking for something to fix, something to organize, something to solve, something to carry. You know this might be you. If you feel guilty when you rest, you feel anxious when nobody needs something right in that moment. You imaginarily create responsibilities that nobody asked you to take on. You struggle to enjoy something unless it's super productive. That's not work ethic, and it's not a work ethic problem. That's an identity problem. Trust. Been there, done that. This channel is built on lived experience and change. Being needed means you provide something. Being loved means you matter, even when you don't. Being needed means you provide something. Being loved means you matter, even when you don't. And if that statement made you uncomfortable, we might have found the wound. The problem isn't that helping people just like all bad. Helping people can be a beautiful thing. But the problem starts when helping people becomes the only way you know how to feel valuable. Because eventually, you stop asking yourself what you want. You stop asking yourself what brings you joy. You stop asking yourself what fills you up. And your entire life, it becomes this one long response to everyone else's need. And then one day you just magically wake up and you're exhausted. Not because life is just too hard, but because you've been disappearing in small pieces for years. And some of you aren't afraid nobody will need you anymore. Some of you aren't. You're afraid nobody will choose you anymore. And that's a whole different conversation. And that's why this hurts. Because deep down, a lot of strong people like yourself have connected usefulness to worthiness. If I just help enough, if I sacrifice enough, if I carry enough, then surely I'll be loved in the way that I want. Surely I'll matter. Surely somebody will see me for who I am. But love and usefulness are not one and the same, and confusing them is very expensive. So where do you go from here? It all starts with a simple question. If no one needed you tomorrow, what would you do? Not chores, not errands, not catching up on whatever. What would you do? What would make you feel alive and purpose-driven? What would make you reconnect to yourself? Because the answer is usually where the recovery starts. Not just with another responsibility, not with another goal, not with another person to save. It all starts with you. So the goal was never to stop being a caring, loving individual. The goal was never to stop helping everybody. The goal is to stop believing that helping people is the only thing that makes you valuable. That is the difference. So today I want you to do one thing, just one thing that has absolutely nothing to do with being useful to anyone else. I'm talking no explanations, no permission, no guilt, just one thing for you. Can you do that? Because you are more than what you do for other people. You are more than the job title. You're more than responsibility or more than just being a rescue mission. Remember, I'm the gas station. I fill you up so you can move, but you still have to drive. Continue to sip the truth and live on purpose, and I'll see you in the next one.